MSNBC did an abysmal job, just utterly atrocious job at this debate. I'm going to give you an example of, terrible framing here, and then we'll come back, I'll break that down, and give you other examples of stuff that was asked during the debate that's just beyond comical.
Kristen, welcome. Let's talk about Medicare for All. Senator Warren, you are running on Medicare for All. Democrats have been winning elections even in red states with a very different message on health care, protecting Obamacare. Democrats are divided on this issue. What do you say to voters who are worried that your position on Medicare for All could cost you critical votes in the general election?
Look at that framing. You have to understand, guys, they'll never say up front, mainstream media will never say up front, I believe in corporate centrism, just so you know. They don't do that. What they do is their ideology slips out, and you know what it is based on the framing of their question. And by the way, what they said there is not even true. Democrats are divided on this. No, they're not. Would you call an issue that's 80-20 divided? I wouldn't. I would call an issue that's 80-20 overwhelming on the side of the 80% position. So Medicare for All, 80%, and that's the low number, by the way. In some polls, it's way above that. Could up to 90% in some polls of Democrats say, I support Medicare for All. Democrats are divided on this. This position could cost you crucial votes. Says who? Oh yeah, that could cost you crucial votes. To go to dilapidated areas of the country and say, you should have health care that's free at the point of service. That's going to cost you votes? No, it's not. You're just saying that it's going to cost them votes because you don't like that position. What are you talking about? In some polls, a majority of Republicans also support Medicare for All. Over 70% of the country in some polls support Medicare for All. Obviously, it depends on the framing. If you say something insane like, would you support the government taking away your insurance and forcing you on a government plan? If you frame it like that, of course it's not a majority favored position. But if you frame it in any way which is reasonable and objective, the poll is way over 50% for the country. So if you're saying that this might cost you votes, no. The framing that would make sense is it might cost you votes to not support Medicare for All. So why don't you support Medicare for All, Mayor Pete, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? That's a question that would actually be objective and make sense. But they don't ask that because they're helplessly biased. They're neoliberal corporate centrists. That's what they are through and through. Now, they never admit that, and maybe they don't even know that about themselves. They wouldn't put a label on it, but they think these are the questions that are in a room full of millionaire elites from the establishment media. This is a question that they find perfectly reasonable. By the way, they've asked 1,000 times, how are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for Medicare for All? They've never once asked the candidates who leave millions of people uncovered, hey, what are you going to do with millions of people uncovered? That seems like a terrible plan if you still have millions of people uncovered. What are you going to do for them? Never asked that. None of them have ever asked, hey, how are we going to afford our current system, which costs trillions of dollars more? They never asked that to the people who are in favor of minor tweaks around the edges. Guys, you have to understand how abysmal that framing is. The media is biased. The media drives a narrative. And it's always, always, always paint the lefties as unreasonable, paint the lefties as pie in the sky, unserious. And they're wrong. The real unserious people are the centrists. We just lost to Trump with the king centrist, the queen centrist, Hillary Clinton. And all the questions assume that, well, obviously centrism is the right thing to do and politically viable, right? Oh, it's so frustrating. Now, the other thing is, they didn't even ask a question about Elizabeth Warren flip-flopping on Medicare for All. Hold on now. She just released more details of her plan, and the details are, in the first 3 years, we're going to do a public option in Medicare for all who want it, and then after the first 3 years, we're going to come back, we're going to revisit healthcare, and then we'll try to get Medicare for all. But first, you need to give people the choice for that 3-year time span in order for them to realize that, oh my God, the government system is way better than the private system, so this is how we're going to approach it. But That's a pipe dream that's never going to work. That's clearly a backtrack on Medicare for all. You're not going to get 2 cracks at healthcare reform. Are you kidding me? That's never going to happen. This is a way for her to give herself an out. And also, a public option isn't the same thing as Medicare for all. So if you pass a public option, you're not testing how people would feel about Medicare for all. You're testing a public option, which is just not as good. So they didn't ask a question about that. I mean, listen, it's unbelievable how, in the world I'm in, you're on lefty Twitter, everybody's talking about policy nonstop. Sure, there are memes and everybody's having fun too, but it's all policy all day long. Oh my God, look at what this person said about Bolivia. Oh my God, look at this person's position on foreign policy. Look at this healthcare, pivot, whatever it might be. It's all policy. I'm not kidding when I say a lot of those people on stage, I bet they didn't even know that what Elizabeth Warren did is a backtrack on Medicare for all. I bet they had no idea. And I bet Elizabeth Warren was walking out there like, whew, thank God, man. Wow. They didn't even notice that. Because of course, and then it hit me afterwards. Well, of course they're not going to ask a question that's adversarial from a left-wing perspective. And that's what that would be. It would be an adversarial question from a left-wing perspective. Hey, you said you support Medicare for all, but you backed off of it by saying you're going to have 2 separate plans 3 years later and you're not going to fight for it immediately. Guys, this is unreal. So the question for her was still assumed she supported Medicare for all, and she doesn't. So they didn't do that, so they're not up with the times. By the way, no question on Bolivia. Nothing. There was just a coup in Bolivia. There was just a coup, and you got Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo casually supporting, a coup and vocalizing it. The person who's the self-declared president, her party got 4% in the elections. The military told, Morales, you got to step down. That's the definition of a coup. You got ransacking of the houses of people who are in Morales' party. You got Janine Áñez, the self-appointed president, gave the police carte blanche. Do whatever you want. I'm not going to prosecute you. If you want to, violently go after protesters, by all means. Not a single question on that. Honestly, it's embarrassing, man. Other issues. They didn't ask Andrew Yang a question for like the first 30 minutes or more of the debate. I think it was Warren had already gotten 3 questions before Andrew Yang got 1 question. And by the way, you say, oh, no, well, it goes based off polling. He's lower in the poll, so that's why they did that. No, Klobuchar got more questions than people who were polling way higher than her. Klobuchar got, way more time to speak than a lot of people who were polling way higher than her. That one of their first question to Andrew Yang was, oh, why are you prepared to handle a terror attack? What would you do in response to a terror attack? Okay, if you want to say to me, Kyle, that's a fair question. He's just an entrepreneur. What does qualify him? Well, my response to you would be, okay, but Mayor Pete is the frickin' mayor of South Bend, Indiana. It's not even the biggest city in Indiana. He got 8,000 votes total. And what qualifies him to respond to a terror attack? Oh, he was in the military. Yeah, but Tulsi was too. And all you guys think, oh, she's not ready to do anything. So do you see the game they play here, man? They have their favorites. They have the people they don't like. And everything is massively biased. And they don't let you know up front they're biased. They try to hide it and pretend like they're objective. The first question you asked Andrew Yang, what makes you ready to respond to a terror attack? It's unbelievable. Then they asked him later on, what would you say on your first call to Vladimir Putin? These are questions that they ask, guys. Probably the most unforgivable thing, no question to Mayor Pete on faking black support, faking black endorsements, and then using a stock Kenyan photo on his website. And by the way, when they were called out on all this stuff, like, oh, wow, we just spoke to the people who you said endorsed your plan in South Carolina, and they said half of them didn't endorse your plan. Half of them aren't even black. And you wrote it as if that was the case. They were like, oh, no, we didn't even do anything wrong. We gave them the opportunity to opt out of supporting the plan. We sent an email saying, we're going to assume you support this plan and opt out if you don't want it. Guys, he's a charlatan, con man, fraud, lying about black support. Lying about it. 0 questions. 0 questions on that. One of the softball questions for Elizabeth Warren was, do you think more people, only 1% of Americans are in the military. Do you think more people should join the military? That's her foreign policy question. If you can't tell, I can't say enough negative stuff about how the media did in this debate. It was embarrassing. It was sad. It was pathetic. It was unserious. And I kid you not when I say, every single person I've ever met who's in the same space that I am, YouTube political commentary, every single one would have been able to do a better job moderating a debate. And guys, it's not even close. It's not even close. That says a lot. And by the way, just to let you know, that I'm not saying that says a lot about how good and amazing we are. No. I'm saying it says a lot because they are just stupefyingly, objectively terrible.